My husband looked me straight in the eye and dropped the line, "Without me, you're nothing." It sounded like he'd just won Best Actor in a drama, but his mistake was forgetting one thing. The script never ended there. Because exactly one day later, the very world he bragged about came crashing down right in front of him. Want to know where that downfall began? Let me pull back the curtain for you. The city lights of Los Angeles spilled through the dining room window. Each sparkle, glittering like Hollywood, was testing fireworks just to witness my family's tragedy. Ryan sat across from me, tie loosened, eyes sharp as if he'd just signed another $1 million deal. Then he delivered a line I know will stay etched in my memory forever. "Without me, you're nothing." You know those classic villain lines in movies? The ones they usually throw out around the 45-minute mark, right before the main character takes them down. Too bad Ryan didn't realize he'd just cast himself as the antagonist. I bit into my salad slowly, pretending I hadn't heard a thing. Outside, the honking on Wilshire Boulevard blended with the clinking of silverware, but in my head, everything went silent, like a black and white film with no sound. To be fair, Ryan was never exactly soft-spoken. Back when we were dating, he loved being in charge, like a CEO, even when he was just ordering pho. And maybe because I'm a lawyer, used to listening to clients unload every complaint under the sun, I'd gotten pretty good at nodding along, letting the other person think they were holding all the cards. But this time was different. What he didn't know was that just a few hours earlier, I had pulled a heavy envelope out of the mailbox. No return address. Just a thick stack of documents, crammed with numbers, charts, and a trail of internal emails. And God, it wasn't some thriller novel. It was a full-blown blueprint of a healthcare data fraud scheme slick enough to make the SEC want to call an emergency meeting. Here's the short version. Ryan ran a health tech startup, the kind Silicon Valley investors hyped up as the Uber of healthcare. But instead of innovating the tech, he was innovating the books. Patient charts cloned like mass-printed flyers, numbers repeating as if they'd been lazily copy-pasted from Excel 2007. If you've ever seen We Crashed or The Dropout, yeah, that exact vibe. The only difference? This time I wasn't sipping wine on my couch laughing at the madness. I was inside the story. Are you even listening to me? Ryan set his glass of red wine on the table, his voice bitter, like an espresso with the ratio all wrong. And no, I'm not naming brands here. Don't want to get sued. I looked up and gave him a small smile, the kind my friends call my lawyer smile, no teeth showing, but my eyes already taking mental notes in bullet points. "Of course I am," I said. He tilted his chin, satisfied, like he'd just won a bet. But inside, all I could think was, "Oh, Ryan, if there were an Oscar for overconfidence right before the fall, you'd be giving the acceptance speech." Part of me wanted to laugh, honestly. Have you ever sat across from someone who thinks they've got everything under control, while you know they're really just standing on a rickety old rope bridge? That feeling? It's deliciously hard to describe. Like playing Jenga while the other person yanks out blocks with bravado, never realizing you've already set a time bomb under the tower. I lifted my glass, swirling the amber liquid like I was savoring its aroma, when really I just wanted to catch my own reflection in it. That woman, me, used to believe in Ryan blindly, used to think he was my doorway to a bigger world. Yeah, sounds corny, but come on, who hasn't thought that way when they were young and in love? By now you're probably screaming in your head, "Girl, why didn't you pack your bags and leave last Christmas already?" Trust me, I've heard that question more times than Netflix has asked me, "Are you still watching?" I even once vented a little on Reddit, and the very first comment shot straight to the top. "Sis, call a lawyer. Like, yesterday." I actually giggled right there at the bar while reading it, and the bartender thought I was texting an ex. The truth? I was laughing because they had no idea. My lawyer had already been checked in for a long time. Ryan poured himself more wine without even asking if I wanted a refill. Classic. Then he launched into a monologue about expanding the company, raising a Series C round, prepping for an IPO. I nodded along, tossing him the occasional, "Oh, that's interesting," just to keep him talking. Meanwhile, in my head, the documents from that envelope lined up like soldiers waiting for orders. Emails proving fraud, spreadsheets full of copy-paste data, even shady contracts signed with a phantom supplier. Maybe being a lawyer made me harder to shock. I've seen clients deported, comb through 200-page depositions just to find one detail that could save them. But watching my own husband turn his company into a con, that still landed like a punch. Not to the gut, straight to my pride. He put me down just to lift himself up. What he didn't realize was that those very words acted like the gavel strike opening a trial. I leaned back in my chair, took a slow sip of wine. In my head, there was indie film background music. Maybe a soft acoustic guitar, or maybe just the ceiling fan rattling above. I thought, tomorrow, his magic trick goes up in smoke. I raised my glass, holding a half smile so Ryan could believe he just won a round in our marital boxing match. But the truth was nowhere close. Because if we rewind just a bit, I had a whole list of red flags, flashier than Chloe Ramirez's Instagram feed. At first, I thought Ryan was just living large to impress investors. He'd disappear for days, claiming he had to fly up to San Francisco for closed-door meetings. Sounded professional enough, but I'm a lawyer. I live and breathe schedules down to the minute. And something didn't add up. Flying to SF for meetings, but no follow-up emails? Not even a polite text like, "Sorry, tied up in meetings, I'll call tonight." Well, fine. Maybe he was keeping things under wraps for strategic reasons. I tried to believe that, until I stumbled on one tiny detail. A sky-high bill from a Japanese restaurant, time-stamped on the exact day he claimed he was in back-to-back meetings. I didn't need Sherlock Holmes to put together the first piece of the puzzle. All I needed was the internet and a little patience. When I finally stumbled onto Chloe's Instagram, everything lit up brighter than the Coachella stage. Chloe Ramirez, oh, that name rings plenty of bells in Los Angeles. A lifestyle influencer, famous for unboxing designer bags, striking poses with green smoothies she probably never finishes, and flooding her feed with every curated angle of her life. And somehow, every time Ryan was supposedly on a business trip to San Francisco, Chloe's stories just happened to show her checking into a boutique hotel in San Francisco. To be fair, I wasn't shocked my husband was cheating. Powerful man plus oversized ego plus social media equals a formula. Reddit has broken down in dozens of episodes. What floored me wasn't that he had a mistress, it was that he chose Chloe, a woman whose entire existence is broadcast online, who wouldn't recognize the concept of privacy if it smacked her in the face. Honestly, cheating with an influencer is like robbing a bank while live streaming on TikTok. One night, I was scrolling Instagram just to kill time. Chloe posted a picture holding the keys to a brand new Porsche. I zoomed in, and there it was, the license plate reflected in the glass door. Guess what? Yep, registered under Ryan's company. I nearly laughed out loud. It reminded me of a comment I once read. Cheater 101. They always think they're slick, but forget women spot clues faster than the FBI. And it didn't stop with the car. A few weeks later, Chloe posted a photo flashing a diamond-studded watch on her wrist. One glance and I recognized the brand, the same one Ryan once said was too extravagant, not worth the money. Turns out what he really meant was not worth the money for my wife, but apparently for his mistress, it was a different story. I wasn't even mad. I just laughed, realizing I was living in a spin-off of Succession with a comedic twist. Here's the kicker. Chloe didn't just show off the gifts. She showed off the locations. Trips to Bali, Paris, Cabo, suspiciously identical to Ryan's so-called business trips. He'd claim he was in San Francisco, yet the company credit card statements showed charges at a luxury resort in Mexico. And what a coincidence. Chloe's stories popped up from that very resort. Same view, same day. Now you're probably wondering, okay, but how did Alyssa know the company was footing the bill for all this? Simple. I'm a lawyer. I'm trained to read the fine print. When an expense report labeled something as medical research costs, my radar went off. What kind of medical research requires spa receipts, Swedish massages, and bottles of Dom Perignon? Maybe Ryan thought slapping the word medical on everything would magically make it legit. I just looked at it and thought, sure, if you're researching the neurological effects of champagne bubbles, then maybe. One night, my best friend Jenna sat listening to me spill everything, munching popcorn and giving commentary like she was watching a Netflix show. She blurted out, "Wait, he used company funds for spa days? That's like a parody version of a wellness startup." I laughed so hard I almost choked on my drink. But deep down, it stung. Money that should have gone to saving patients was being funneled into gel manicures for an influencer. The funniest part? Ryan still kept up his act as the perfect husband. He'd come home looking exhausted, sighing, those San Francisco meetings just dragged on. And I'd sit there nodding, listening like he was a client walking me through a hopeless case. In my head, I wanted to stand and clap. And the Oscar for most pretentious leading man goes to Ryan Grant. Honestly, if this weren't my life, I'd have grabbed popcorn and binged it on Netflix. But since it was my life, I had to play it differently. Memorize, observe, let him paint his own caricature. I didn't rush to confront him. Some cons only unravel the longer you let them run. Ryan thought I was clueless, but he had no idea I was already watching every detail click together like a connect-the-dots puzzle. From the Porsche to the watch, from Cabo resorts to medical spa receipts, each piece I stored away, waiting for the day it all formed a complete picture. And have you noticed this? Cheaters always believe they're the only main character. Ryan lived like the spotlight shined solely on him, forgetting that I, his lawyer wife, was well-trained in flipping through files until I found the forged signature. So I kept quiet, sipped my wine, and let him ramble on about his San Francisco investors. Inside I smiled and thought, keep talking, darling. Every word only sharpens the picture. If Chloe's clues were like a horror movie trailer, what came next was the full season, packed with enough drama Netflix might greenlight it tomorrow. I started collecting every piece of the puzzle, and trust me, I didn't miss a single one. One day, Ryan handed me a thick folder bound in fancy leather. He spoke like the busiest man on earth. Just sign this for me. It's only paperwork. Makes things easier for the company. His tone was pure. Don't worry, your pretty little head, this is big boy business. I picked up the pen, pretending to skim, but every line of text lit up in my mind like Morse code. A clause about transfer of share ownership was bolded, practically screaming at me. I raised an eyebrow, thinking, oh, so you're turning the company into your personal ATM, and I've just been cast as the one signing off the withdrawal slip. I didn't sign right away. I smiled sweetly and said, I'll read it carefully and sign tomorrow. Ryan frowned, but since he was rushing off to a meeting, he just muttered, you always overcomplicate things. That line, you won't believe it, sounded exactly like the textbook gaslighter script. I almost laughed out loud at how cliché it was. A few days later, my inbox served up another surprise. An anonymous message, clearly from someone inside Ryan's company. The note was short, but enough to make me sit up straight. He's about to siphon funds before the IPO. Check the recent transfers. I stared at the screen, torn between laughing and feeling pity for Ryan. The man who believed everyone is loyal to me had forgotten the most basic law. When the boss gets too arrogant, there's always a disgruntled someone ready to drop a leak. But the best part was Ryan thinking he was too clever to ever get caught. He'd still come home wearing that smug face, sometimes shooting me a look that said parasite. One evening, while I was folding laundry by the washing machine, he dropped a bitter line. You really are a second-rate lawyer. Without me, you'd just be drafting rental contracts for immigrants. I stayed quiet, folded another t-shirt. That was my work, and I was proud of it. But Ryan twisted it into a weapon, as if a job only mattered when it added extra zeros to a bank account. I looked at him and thought, you're dead wrong. A so-called second-rate lawyer can be calm enough to pull the plug on your first-class performance. Sometimes I wondered if he even heard himself. A man who went around chanting, we're changing the healthcare world, yet in the kitchen told his wife she was useless. If this were a script, the writer's margin note would read, warning, risk of losing all female viewers. Of course, I didn't react. Being a lawyer had taught me one priceless skill. Don't fire back right away. Let the other side keep talking until they expose themselves. I started treating my marriage like a mock trial. Every time Ryan opened his mouth, I imagined myself as the judge and him as the defendant giving a voluntary confession. Let the self-incrimination flow. All I had to do was remember. And then came the twist. The kind that almost made me laugh out loud in the middle of the night. Buried in one of those internal files he shoved at me to sign was a strange transaction. I traced it, no hacking, no law-breaking, just eyes and brain, and uncovered a bank account in the Cayman Islands. You know, Cayman, paradise for both beach vacations and hiding money. This scheme was older than dial-up internet, yet Ryan still thought it would work. The account was in his name, with money dripping in steadily, bit by bit, like eye drops. And the more I looked, the clearer his plan became. Once the company went public, he'd cash out, drain everything, and disappear with Chloe. The influencer probably already daydreaming about a penthouse with an infinity pool. I closed the folder and leaned back in my chair. Ever stared at a piece of paper and felt the urge to both curse and applaud at the same time? That was exactly me. I wondered, did he really think I was dumb enough to sign without reading? Or was he just so used to being worshipped that he forgot his wife also knew how to read the fine print? Ryan walked into the room just then and asked, "What are you laughing at all by yourself?" I jumped a little, but quickly covered with a casual, "Just reading some old memes." He shook his head, probably convinced I was harmless, just sitting there giggling at cat jokes online. In reality, I was laughing because Ryan's magic trick had already been exposed. And like every illusion, once the audience spots the gimmick, the act loses all its shine. He thought he was about to vanish in smoke with Chloe. But he forgot that I, the so-called second-rate lawyer he mocked, was the audience waiting to clap at the exact moment the trick collapsed. If you've made it this far, you're probably wondering, how are you still so calm? Believe me, there were moments I wanted to scream at him like a sitcom character mid-meltdown, but then I remembered something I once read on Reddit. Don't argue with someone digging their own grave. Just hand them the shovel. So I let Ryan keep talking, keep digging, while I sat there, patient as a judge, waiting for the verdict to be read. And that's exactly what made me stronger, knowing I could choose the timing. Ryan had no idea the game had started long ago, and he was already losing on his own home court. I let Ryan keep digging, and the hole only got deeper. Then one day, he decided to drag me into the spotlight. Literally. "You have to come with me to the fundraising gala this week," he said, like he was bestowing an honor. I glanced at the black dress hanging in my closet and thought, fine. You want a performance? I'll be your co-star. But remember, I know how to rewrite the script. That night, the Beverly Hills Hotel ballroom glittered like an awards show. Ryan walked me in on his arm, flashing a smile so bright it could have been polished with gold. I smiled too, the classic First Lady grin, all pretend happiness, my hand resting lightly on his arm, as if I were there to support his big dream. In reality, I was running through my mental checklist. Anonymous email sent to the SEC, internal documents forwarded to the business press, and the pièce de résistance, a fat PDF file sitting in the inbox of the wife of the company's biggest investor. If you're thinking, wow, she really went all in, you're right. Even I surprised myself with how bold I'd gotten. But the lawyer in me kept reminding myself, every piece of evidence was legal. No hacking, no sneaking around. I simply held up a mirror in front of Ryan. He performed. I just switched on the spotlight. All through the gala, Ryan paraded me around to clusters of investors. This is my wife, the rock of my life. I nearly choked on my champagne. The same man who'd called me a second-rate lawyer last week was now singing my praises as the foundation of his world. I smiled politely, nodded gracefully, while in my head I scribbled a note. And the Oscar for Best Performance in Fake Husband Role still goes to Ryan. And of course, Chloe showed up. She swept in wearing a glittering red dress, clutching a tiny purse I'd bet money was filed under medical expenses. She strutted past me with that confident look, the news CEO's woman. I didn't flinch. I just took another sip of champagne and thought, just wait until tomorrow, sweetheart. And then tomorrow came. When I opened my eyes, my phone was buzzing like it was about to leap off the nightstand. I glanced at the screen and the first headline hit me. Ryan Grant's health tech startup accused of data fraud. SEC launches investigation. I burst out laughing. It felt exactly like watching the finale of a series and realizing the plot twist lined up perfectly with the fan theory you once read on Reddit. Bookmark. Within an hour, the news was everywhere. Investors panicked and pulled out, the company's stock nosedived like a Six Flags roller coaster, and a group of employees even dropped a Twitter thread exposing the pressure to fake numbers, turning Ryan into a full-on trending topic. And Chloe? Oh, the internet did not hold back. Her photos flooded with comments. Queen living off patient money? Spa days funded by healthcare dollars. Makes sense. Soon enough, the hashtag healthcarebimbo was born. I felt a flicker of pity for, about 2 seconds. Then I laughed again. My best friend Jenna FaceTimed me right then. "Alyssa, I swear this drama is hotter than the new season of Love is Blind. Are you selling tickets yet?" I stirred my coffee and replied, "Tickets are free, but you're buying your own popcorn." The peak of it all came when the leaked video dropped. Grainy, but clear enough to catch Ryan's voice in a private meeting. "Once the company goes public, I'm dumping Alyssa. Who needs a second-rate lawyer dragging me down?" The sound of men laughing around the table filled the clip, while I sat on the couch munching cookies, replaying it 3 times. If this were a sitcom, that moment would have had a canned laugh track. Ryan came home at noon, his face pale like he'd just auditioned for a vampire role. He slammed his phone on the table, stammering, It's all fake news. Someone's trying to ruin me." I glanced up from my book and asked calmly, "So the part about dumping your wife, was that a deepfake too?" He went silent, and I smiled, a tiny smile, but enough for him to know the magic act was officially over. Bang! The table shook as Ryan slammed his fist down, the sound echoing through the apartment. He stood there, face blazing red, sweat dripping, eyes wild like a man completely unhinged. His finger trembled as he pointed straight at me, voice cracking into a furious roar. "What did you do?" I stayed seated at the kitchen table, calmly sipping my tea as if his question were just another sitcom line. I looked up, surprising even myself with how steady I sounded. "I didn't do anything," I replied, my voice soft as a feather. "I just let the truth find its way out." That answer hit him like a slap without a hand. He froze, choking on his own rage while I felt the corner of my lips curl upward. The truth was, I didn't need to pretend to be the good wife anymore. This film had reached its finale, and I was ready to roll the closing credits. Breaking news was still blasting from the TV behind him. Ryan's face plastered all over the screen, headlines screaming health tech CEO under fraud investigation. But the bigger twist, the one meant just for him, hadn't even hit yet. The next day, during an emergency meeting between the company and the lead investor's legal team, Ryan walked into the boardroom looking like a defeated soldier. His face drained of color the moment he saw who was sitting across the table. Sophia Turner. My old law school friend. Back then, I'd once helped Sophia out of a minor legal jam. Who would have guessed that years later, she'd be the attorney representing the company's largest investor? Ryan turned to look at me, as if I'd orchestrated the entire universe just to put Sophia in that chair. I only shrugged. Life has a way of delivering surprises, and this time, the gift was mine. Sophia looked Ryan dead in the eye, her voice firm. "We have conclusive evidence you misused investor funds, inflated healthcare data, and funneled money into a Cayman account. We'll be working closely with the SEC." Ryan looked like he might collapse right there at the table. But he didn't know the second blow was even heavier. I had already filed for divorce, quietly, with every piece of financial evidence attached. While he was still shouting that he was being set up, the court had my petition in hand. Every escape route he thought he had was already sealed off. He was cornered on both fronts, justice and marriage. The outcome was swift and brutal. Ryan was voted out as CEO in an emergency session, his reputation demolished in less than 24 hours. Investigators showed up at his office, demanding every file. The once powerful man had become nothing more than a cautionary tale, a textbook example of arrogance gone wrong. And Chloe, the influencer, scrubbed every photo with Ryan, then posted a teary story claiming she had no idea. Her followers called it a brand survival move. Me? I just found it hilarious. So much for everlasting love when it fizzled out faster than the shelf life of a TikTok trend. The rest was mine. The court granted me a fair share of assets, the house, most of the savings, and ironically, the public image of the lawyer wife who exposed a fraudulent CEO. The press dubbed me the woman who rose from the shadows of gaslighting, but I only smiled. One quiet afternoon, sunlight streaming through the living room window, I remembered Ryan's old line, "Without me, you're nothing." I shook my head gently and whispered to myself, wrong. I was everything, because I was always me. No fanfare, no cliché new beginning montage, just a simple truth. I don't need him to exist, to shine, or to be seen. I only ever needed myself. When all the noise faded and the doors finally closed, I realized this. Real strength isn't about getting revenge on someone else, it's about believing you're already worthy without letting anyone else define you. Sure, revenge sounds dramatic, but freedom is the sweetest prize. And now I want to ask you, if you were in my shoes, would you stand still and let someone else write your story? Or would you pick up the pen and rewrite the ending yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really do read them all. Oh, and if you enjoy these real-life dramas that make you laugh and nod along, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next one. I'm truly grateful for all your support, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for listening all the way through.